Hello, dear friends. Now, before I show you how to change your mind to change your life, let me first say my name is Juan Carlos Coelho, and many people call me one of the luckiest men alive. I built my dream company into a massive global organization, and I am the founder of Rock Did It. I help those who desire to do better in life achieve above average dreams by transforming into an above average person. I help people such as barbers, therapists, coaches, athletes, authors, and entrepreneurs. I didn't become a celebrity, not a guru, not a spiritual leader with followers. I'm a simple plain man of simple ways, and I speak with a lost accent of an Ecuadorian American Miami boy who smiles easily, and whenever you hear rock, you changed my life. I reply, no, I didn't. You did with your own mind. However, in the past, I lived my life wrong, and I don't want this to happen to you. Imagine having it all, only to lose it all. I decided to leave all those fake live mirages behind and travel to South America on a missionary trip to help the less fortunate in a third world country. I was there for 5 years. And I just want to ask you, have you had frustration or faced challenges where you knew who you were, but those around you didn't? Allow me to tell you, there are times in life where you fall down and you don't feel like you have the strength to get back up. And you pretend that everything is okay when it's not. You go home and you lay in your bed and cry on your pillow, where you don't have to impress anybody, and fear comes in. That fear you have as you walk into the door of your house. Maybe you come from a broken home. Maybe you have doubts about where you are in life. Maybe you haven't planned for what's going to be happening in the future. It scares you. But maybe you're going through some tough times. And I'm telling you, it has not come to stay. It has come to pass. But it takes guts. It takes courage. You gotta get back up. This must be done until you succeed. Because you know that it's possible. Don't be worried about what people think of you, what people say of you. Don't let that paralyze you. And I just want to ask you today, do you think you have hope? Me too. Yeah, those challenges I mentioned, I faced them too. And I was born in the year 1984 of the month of November. Let me tell you a little bit about my struggles and success, where I come from and where I'm going. See, I was born into poverty. I was born in a third world country in Latin America, specifically Ecuador, where the houses were built on stilts because they were on top of a swamp. And in 1991, my father first came to the United States, and we were blessed that he was able to work hard and sacrifice, and we followed. While we were poor here in the United States, we were poor. Now we lived in Carol City, Miami. We were five. My parents, me, my brother, my sister, both younger than me. And we lived in a one-room studio, sleeping on the floor on mats. My parents could not afford a barber to cut my hair for $8. Going through those moments at age 11, I learned how to cut my hair, and I followed in my grandfather's footsteps. My grandfather, Don Juan Coello. Don Juan Coello. My grandfather, Don Juan Coello, was a legend in his own time. By the age of 12, I was already cutting hair in my family's hair. And by the end of age 13, I was already, in 1997, working illegally in a barbershop in Miami called Clippers. Apart from being a minor, I didn't have a license, but I had faith in my abilities and the talents to become a barber. And my family needed the money, and it was very, very difficult watching my father survive with the few earnings from his work in a moving company at the time called Eldorado Furniture. And the little that I did as a barber, it helped him. And my dad, he had his own tailoring and alteration business back home in Ecuador. He was studying pre-med, architecture, and he gave up everything so that his family could come to the United States and have a better future. And my dad is my hero. And he wired me for success since I was just a toddler, dressing me up as a businessman by age 5. In 1999, I enrolled in Wolf Barber Academy, a barber school. And I had an unexplainable emotion just thinking that part of my dreams was going to come true, which is to help my family. And by that time, I already knew how to cut hair, but I was interested in learning the theory, the science behind it, the art of barbering. Unfortunately, however, 3 months after I enrolled in the school went bankrupt and they closed. All the earned money that my parents had put, which was $6,500 towards my education, was lost, and we were never able to get that money back. And a month later, I enrolled in another school, and this time it was called Florida Barber Academy in Pompano Beach, which is like an hour and 45 minutes north from where I live. The good thing is that this school accepted my credits from the first school, so every day was a great challenge because of the distance. I rode the bus, I traveled on the train, I caught a ride, I hitchhiked, I walked. I had to do whatever it took to get to school, Monday through Saturday. That's the story of my struggle. Now, the story of creating a solution, when asked what made me so driven and successful, I simply say that I hated what I saw in the mirror, and enough was enough. I needed to make a change. Having been bullied and abused both physically and mentally by the time I graduated middle school, I was, by my own admission, broken and weak. But instead of accepting that, I turned inward. I stopped saying poor me, and I got to work on becoming the man that I wanted to be. To do that, I learned that I had to embrace suffering, and I leveraged my pain as a way to toughen my mind in order to callous my mind and the resulting man that I have become and my indomitable spirit of the creator in me that I call rock dude, that has so inspired the world that I have become the one that be driven among us to hang on their mirror as a reminder that anything is possible. But it took a while to get to that point where enough was enough. And I was broken. And I had to make a change in my life. You know, I was at a all-time low and I wasn't going anywhere. And I was exactly what everybody said I was going to be, which was nothing. So I had to make a change. I came from a horrible background. I got called Mexican every day, short, all kinds of names, and bullied all of my life growing up, living in a small town called Carol City, Miami. You know, I was jumped and bullied by the second grade. And I was beat up by bullies, and I remember he hit my sister in the third grade. And one of the high ups in the gang in West Highland Institute put a knife on my stomach and said, you know, I'm gonna kill you in the seventh grade. So I was just an insecure, scared little boy, and the only way that I can find myself was to put myself through the worst thing possible. So every day where I was an insecure, scared kid, the only way I could find myself was to put myself through the worst possible thing. When I was growing up, I lied for people to like me, for people to accept me, because I didn't accept myself. So I would make up stories so that you would accept me into your world. Everything I did was for someone else to like me, and the feeling I had every morning I looked in the mirror was horrible, and I didn't even feel like it's horrible, and I don't want to feel like that anymore. And how I felt was as a kid going nowhere, a kid that was scared, and most kids will accept that and look for help. But the best thing that happened to me was that no one helped me. No one felt sorry for me. I had to figure out I wasn't going to be a punk kid all my life. So the way I could turn around was to suffer. And I had to build calluses in my brain. The same way I built calluses in my hands for boxing. For a 45-minute fight, I had to train for 45,000 minutes. 10 weeks, 10 hours a day for one fight. You know, I started in the heart of Liberty City. Stands a seemingly abandoned building, punctuated only by a few cars in the front lot. And in spite of these unfavorable conditions and the inexperience of some of the fighters, however, each afternoon, behind those chained doors, young athletes participated in intensive physical conditioning, cardiovascular routines, and sparring. We were the 27th Avenue Metro Boxing Club under the leadership of our head coach Troy Reed. Coach Troy Reed conditioned us from head to toe. His primary goal was to get us physically fit and then teach us boxing skills. Coach stuck to his philosophy that 80% of boxing is conditioning. And I spent hours each day engaged in physical activities, thousands of sit-ups to leg curls. My first tournament was in the Florida Sunshine State Games, and I won a silver medal in that tournament. But my victory was greater than most, due to the fact that this was my first boxing experience, and I was going against opponents who had 20 to 30 fights under their belts. But as painful and brutal as it was, fighting changed me. And so what I realized is for me to become the man I wanted to become, I saw myself as the weakest person on the planet ever created. But I never blamed God for anything that He did to me. So I wanted to change that, to be the hardest man ever created. Am I that? I don't know. But you have to have a goal. And my goal, when I was sitting there, not going to school, being bullied, having no self-esteem, my goal was the only person that's going to turn this person around is me. The only way I can turn around is to put myself through the worst possible things. Like human beings can ever endure it, and I be the only one that I can build this brain to handle anything that comes in front of by calling my mind, by putting my mind through pain by putting my mind through pain and suffering. We forget how hard we really are. Even the hardest men at times of suffering, what we knew was we forget how hard we really are. That's what the suffering is. Suffering is a test. It is suffering. It's true test of life. We have the ability to go into such a space if you're willing to suffer, and I mean suffer. Your brain and your body, once connected, can do anything if you're willing to suffer. Most of this generation quits the second they get talked to. You did this wrong, or you did this wrong, or they get yelled at. It's so easy to be great nowadays because everybody else is, most people are weak. This is a softened generation. So if you have any mental toughness, any ability, you have have any mental fraction of self-discipline, the ability to not want to do it but still do it, that's what people are saying by me running calluses in my mind. I'm not training for a race or a boxing fight. I'm training for life. I'm training for when that time when I get that 2 o'clock in the morning phone call that something horrible happened or tragic in life. I don't fall apart. I'm training my mind and my body and my spirit so that it's all one. So I can handle what life is going to throw at me. Because the life that I've lived, that throws a whole bunch at you, and if you're not physically immensely prepared for that, he's gonna tell me that you're good for nobody. But if you can get through doing the things that you hate to do, on the other side is greatness. In the end, on the other side of suffering is greatness. To grow you must suffer. You must suffer to grow. So number 5, we gotta work on number 5. We gotta work on number 6. Number 7, the framework, right? So 80% of the system. I want to push you to become an endurance machine. And what I know about you, not knowing anything about you, is that you have intense greatness within you. So we want to draw out that intensity. We want to battle out some mental demons for a long time and not just get fired up and just slam it and just get to work. Nah. A huge piece of this puzzle, although the struggles appear in the everyday, in our everyday life, the only one we can turn to is our Heavenly Father. And another piece of the puzzle is that things are going to become, what we weren't planning for. There are going to be some times that you're not going to be comfortable with. And you're going to have to adapt. You're going to have to deal with that. And you cannot get negative, because negativity will never, ever, ever work out on your favor. You can have a healthy dose of anger, but Rock Did It is about adaptability and consistency. And if you nail those 2 things, you can change your life. Alright? So we help companies that have a sales team. So that they can increase their production and scale up. That's why I'm going to put Carl Smith, that part, number 7. Alright, so the most common mistakes, the do's and don'ts, it is necessary that you have a plan of action and that you're resilient and that you stick to it. That you have the vision and that you never give up, because you gotta become creative and relentless. To have personal responsibility, self-accountability, to make it happen. It's hard. Easy is not an option. And life is gonna knock you down, but when it knocks you down, you gotta jump back up and say it's not over until I win. Here's the first thing you should do. So the cutting image company is marketed to an audience with the expendable income, buying a luxury product like the cutting image shears that can make any stylist or barber feel special. That's the appeal of purchasing an extravagant item.